subgroup there. So there's a community of guys who that's like what they care about, right? They have a lot of interesting stuff. And yeah, I don't know, you know, they might just kind of disapprove of my kind of just like, you know, all standards be damned, you know, hit the ground running and just create something. But I felt that that was important just to get moving on something. I'm really giving you a really long answer for this, but
no, I mean it's a good answer, and you know, I think it is good that you started this because it's got people's attention going in versus waiting for standardization. It's got people's imaginations running. You know, I think it's been a great fun tool to use. And yeah, I mean, we are in the early days, the wild, wild west, and you know, Moore's law is going to catch up, the hardware, software, and it'll get better and better.
One final answer to your question is that when people think of like the 3D web and what they want to do, sadly, they often think of just like, you know, here's your 2D formatted plane, and I'm going to embed like a 3D, you know, sort of a window into a small 3D world, right? So you'll render some 3D object inside there, but it falls within this context of being like within this 2D plane or space, right? And if that's going to be the status quo, I mean, that kind of sucks. Or, you know, if you are going to do a web VR experience, you're going to want a lot of this, you know, the ability to collaborate. Like I can like right click the floor, we can start building and changing the world together, changing the code, changing all these things, or being able to see and socialize, right? So even with the web VR spec, I mean, they're starting really at like the base case, right? Whereas I went full on like getting the full VR experience, getting us in all in a space together, so that we can, you know, see each other, build together, do all these things. So that, not that any of that's impossible with web VR, it's just there's gonna be a lot more they're gonna have to build to make that possible, even when they do nail this, just, you know, base level of the pyramid stuff where they can actually have like, you know, a versatile web VR plugin that will work on the, you know, the common 2D browsers and stuff.
Sorry to interrupt you there, James, but we're going to have to call a halt to your part now. 15 minutes went past faster than we thought. So thank you very much for that talk. If everybody would like to thank James for his talk.
Thank you. Yay.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
We can do questions after the whole thing is over.
Afterwards, we can do individual questions. Up next, we've got DeepRifter, better known as Chris Madsen. He's going to give us a 15-minute talk.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, teleport up onto the stage here.
Hello.
You can. Hello. You got to teleport through the invisible screen.
Yeah, you got to step back.
There we go.
You got a 5-meter. Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, guys, I am covering the social scene for Road to VR. I've been playing around in the social platforms. It's been about a year and a half now, and thanks for the Road to VR background here. That's awesome. If you guys get a chance to read that, The Void, that's the last experience I did where they overlay virtual reality onto the real world. If you guys ever get a chance to check one of these installations out, The Void is just one of a few popping up. In fact, out in the lobby here, there is a video of another one. I can't remember the name of it, but they're doing the overlays as well, which is incredible. So anyway, back to social VR. This is really cool. The fact that I'm here with you guys, the fact that you're all here is going to make you experts in the years to come. Very, very, very few people are doing this, and I'm excited to see how this field expands over the next couple of years. We're still very early days, and it's awesome to see these prototypes, working prototypes up and running. So much potential here. You know, the fact that we can all gather from the comforts of our own home, from around the world, and share information, and more than that, but experience what we have to show. You know, being able to click on a portal in one of these booths and experience what people want you to experience. You know, if you have let's say you own you're in the auto industry, you can click on that portal, hop in a car, and take it for a ride. That stuff just boggles my mind. This is exciting times that we are in. So, you know, we're here to support all the social platforms. We want social VR to be successful. And what I see making a lot of these places is the community that's involved. I mean, Janus has an amazing community here. You guys have been working so freaking hard. I've watched this evolve great strides in the last even 6 months. It's been amazing how far you guys have come with all of this. So, you know, and how this is going to affect individuals, families, societies, the way we do business. I'm also a therapist, and we're weeks away of running our first groups inside social VR spaces. Very excited about that. You know, there's so much potential here. Any questions from anyone so far?
I kind of want to know what are some ways we can help you guys with this, building this technology. And
Well, yeah, from Road to VR's perspective, it's about coming to events like this right now. It's about helping us test out these prototypes, right? In fact, what I was working on all morning today, we are putting together a master calendar for all the social VR events on the Road to VR site. We should have that up and running maybe even as soon as today, tomorrow. We're going to be hosting all of these VR virtual get-togethers as well as the real space get-togethers like the various meetups, etc. So we want to be that go-to place where you can just hop on and see all the events that are happening across these spaces and hop right in.
Entered channel.
Do you think that social VR is the killer app for VR, do you?
Absolutely, but not just necessarily one. It's going to be all across the board. It's going to be the multiplayer games as well as the social VR platforms. And everything in between. Social VR, it just cracks me up because, everybody, I keep hearing these reports in the news and whatnot about how virtual reality is going to be that isolating experience. And that's just not the case. I mean, look at this. This is as social as it gets right here. So I think that's very cool. No isolation.
I got a question.
What's that?
How was the void? Can you describe what that was like?
Amazing. Read the article, you'll get a good impression. But here's the deal with it. When you layer virtual reality on a real space, as soon as you start grabbing at objects and you feel the wall in front of you and you feel the jets of air coming at you, all the little special effects that they have through these things, it just convinces the brain that it's a real space. It like anchors you to the virtual world. So even when you start getting all these other absurd, crazy things thrown at you, your brain's already accepting the environment as real. So it's extremely intense.
Have they been working with any kind of technology with the Vive or are planning to?
What? Well, once again, I'm not a developer, I'm a reporter, but I'm really stoked about the room space that the Vive is going to provide. I mean, to be able to be, for example, in a party, you're in a room, you've got the cocktails on the table like we did at that big social celebration a couple months back, to be able to literally just walk around in my room and walk amongst you guys is just going to be a complete trip. It's going to really lock in that feeling of being present and be able to just, reach out, shake a hand, be present with others. I think it's going to amplify it quite a bit. I'm really excited about the Vive.
Actually, I do have a question. Well, as a reporter, what did you think
we're
of...
a little ways off with that technology.
What did you think of Oculus's decision to stop supporting OS X and Linux?
Well, we just limited some market space, didn't we? Yeah. I'm a little bit bummed out about that just because we want as many users as possible and that is going to cut the numbers. So I'm really bummed out about that. Like I said, VR is not going to take off right away. It's going to take some time. And the more operating systems we support, the more people we're going to get on board. And we need as many people in these spaces as possible to really start getting that traction.
They're pausing support. Maybe let's continue it later.
Or another company can go in and say, hey, we've got the skills to go in and improve it on our own. So maybe it opens up another company to the same headset.
Well, the independents are always the most nimble, right? They're the ones that are cracking out, dealing with the problems the quickest. So that very well might be the case. But I am a little bit bummed. I just think it's going to prolong VR taking off. You got to do what you got to do. But it is going to prolong things, I'm afraid.
I got a question. Nuke Marine, Feature Creeper, whatever. For virtual reality, I think what I'm seeing here is that we're going to see the advent of AR, augmented reality, being developed inside of virtual reality. Because I can imagine, like with the social experiments, we are in a social event. I can imagine some augmented reality stuff only I see improving my experience, and that then can translate to real world when we move AR to the real world. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow, I hadn't even thought about that, Nuke. That's pretty cool. That's pretty wild. Yeah. You know, it's really crazy too. You use the phrase, translating to the real world. What I'm intrigued by too is as these spaces grow, as business is conducted in these spaces, how that's going to actually impact the real world. Things we decide in here are going to carry over into the real world, and that's very intriguing when it comes to the way society operates. This is a whole new paradigm, right? Well, not totally new. I mean, we've kind of been doing that to an extent. On the regular web, but this is going to really take it to a new level, I think.
Yeah, like
okay, so my question is, who do you think the big
Can you
players
introduce
are?
yourself, say your name when you ask the question?
Yeah, my name's Conchak. I did Phase, which is a first-person shooter that works in this. But my question is, who do you feel are the major players in VR right now? Like, I feel like you have a unique position being a reporter, getting to speak with individuals and companies. So yeah. Basically, who do you feel are the major players?
Now, I'm covering social VR. So when you're asking that question, are you talking about who do I feel the big players are in the social space?
That works for me.
Yeah, I mean, here we go. Janus, Rift Max has certainly got us off to a good kickstart in the early days, and I hope Mike really comes back strong with that. We've got VR Chat. Converge is doing a ton of events right now. Those are and of course AltSpace. So there's your big players right now. But here's the crazy thing. We've got to ask ourselves, what is Facebook working on right now? It's going to be huge. I think that all of us as kind of the more independent developers, as we're pioneering this space, I really want us working all together as much as we possibly can, because we are going to have the huge money operations that are really going to put a stake in this landscape.
Hey,
have you heard of Pluto Vr?
I've heard a little bit about Pluto VR. What have you heard, Firefox?
Oh, no, this is Aussie. Oh no, they've just got a lot of talent behind them and a lot of money, and well, they're setting out to take a big chunk out of the social VR scene. It seems to be like a lot like Converge or coming from that direction, but they're still a dark horse. There's still a lot of those companies still got to announce what they're up to in the next 6 months.
So the question is, what's going to drive people to the more independent pioneering sites like this and the others that I just listed? That's what we got to figure out. I always think there's going to be a space for the more independent platforms. I personally am not a Facebook user. I don't like it. Like using it. I'd rather be in an independent site, but I don't know, the rest of the world may not feel that way. I have no idea how this is going to turn out 2 years from now when we're up against people with billions of dollars.
I can tell you the music industry is really excited. My friends, the producers and musicians and bands are all really excited about the potential social aspects of this, always looking for new media platforms and ways to interact with the fans. And so this is a brilliant platform for that.
Absolutely. Have you done any gigs in VR yet? Have you used VR for your group?
So right now, the page, the site for Caden Cashmere is the one that I did, which is helping promote her album, and then her producer Warren Hewart from Hollywood is promoting his video series. So I was just kind of starting with that, but I've got people. Aussie knows my friends from the band Heart in Seattle. They're interested in doing like the 360-degree videos, taking something like that on tour to have a live performance available everywhere they go. There's a lot of people interested in that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. Recommended if you want to take a look. Sty Eyes and the Bison Kid is a 360 music video. Absolutely incredible if you wanted to check that out. But here's the thing. I mean, everybody creating in this space right now has such an edge. If we're following the VR scene, we kind of are all in a bubble. It seems like things are moving incredibly fast, and it's like you almost can't keep up sometimes. But the reality is, geez, I just went and demoed to like 300 people at a mental health conference, and like maybe 1% really knew anything about VR, which really opened my eyes that, holy cow, you guys all standing here are so far ahead of the curve right now, and the opportunities that provides are really awesome. So, keep doing those developments, get your daughter's name out there in the VR scene. You're going to be steps ahead of everybody else. And yeah, I'm excited about that as well, that the fact that we all have that edge right now.
Yeah, so I've got a question.
Oh,
Alarm Ferret. There's a lot of people who, because of their anonymous status online, are dicks. Do you see that increasing more as virtual reality becomes bigger, or do you see people more becoming associated with their presence and becoming nicer, I guess?
Right. Yeah. Fortunately, we haven't seen much of that because, we're all pretty tight-knit community, which has been nice, but absolutely that's going to be an issue. I remember in the early days, Rift Max creating that boot gun where Mike would actually go up and if someone was causing problems, shoot a boot out of the gun. It would boot them off the servers. I thought that was freaking awesome. But yeah, that's going to be a problem. I mean, to get real crazy in my thoughts, I mean, I've even thought about, geez, when it comes to a point where you're doing fingerprints to get, associate with your avatar, that might slow that down. But that's some pretty crazy, creepy stuff too. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it's going to be a problem, and I don't know how we're going to solve that. Firefox, James, have you guys thought about that at all? How you're going to deal with the dicks?
We've had discussions at length on that.
In the future, social VR is going to be like Grand Theft Auto.
It's going to be run by servers, so you're going to be on servers that make your social experience the better ones. And if you like more freedom, you'd be on another server.
Currently, the administration is just server by server, so it's just by whoever's monitoring their server for people connecting to it.
I'd love to hear from James, though, his thoughts.
Yeah, what's your thoughts, James?
Obviously, security and controlling user behavior is a concern. So the solution I think that we've been moving forward with is that if anyone right now presses like the / key on their keyboard, they'll find they're in like a debug mode. What the debug mode shows, is actually all the servers you're connected to, and then the URLs you're subscribed to for events. So why do I bring this up is because actually right now where we are, we're on like 104.237.
I wanted to bring that up. This is all running off one $10 a month server. All of the multiplayer for everything today. So the cost is incredibly low. Yeah, one, and it's running like a little champ.
Well, we're on two different servers. We're on the one in the homeroom. That's its own server, and then this room is its own server.
This room is this is one. The whole of the convention, the expo, and all that's on a different multiplayer server, and it's just the cheapest package too from
To get to the answer is that in the early days of Janus, it was all centralized. So like VR sites and Qster, right, was like a major kind of partner in developing, Janus and getting the infrastructure and getting like hosting for the rooms and all this, and getting actually these services which are originally like free, so people could create the rooms and worlds. And there was like one shared central multiplayer server, and actually it does take up the slack, and like any ordinary web page you go to the central server. But now Janus will actually dynamically branch and connect to multiple servers. Anyway, to answer the question, the idea being is if you wanted a constrained kind of experience, like sort of said, call out the dicks, you have some form of authentication or something such that someone can't go on the multiplayer server, without having an account or something. And then there's these presumptions of user behavior. But basically the idea is just that you could go to a part of the web in Janus, and then it's governed by its own set of laws, right? And they can kind of administer it how they wish. But when you're not in those custom sites, there's kind of a fallback one that we all kind of go to, and for better or worse, it's more Wild West. But yeah, moving forward, the idea would be hugely decentralized. Think of any domain as having its own accompanying Janus server that comes with its own set of rules and authentication and whatever else. Like even here, I think to make this scale up so that Janus normally works on 10 updates per second, but if you hit / I see he's changed it so that it actually updates 5 times per second. This is probably to accommodate all the concurrent users. Yeah. So even then, there's actually we're on another server where kind of different rules are being applied to Janus. Simple example, but yeah. Anyway.
And to add on to that, James, if I may add, just Janus and Scene VR are two social programs that talk to each other, and they're operating on 2 different rules, and they see 2 different things, but it's still communicating in its social. And that's just another way that's going to work, where these different social VR programs will be talking to each other and deal with their own rules as well.
Yeah, so I'm actually happy to bring in other platforms like Scene VR and make them work.
We have to move on.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt everyone. We have to move on.
I had a question for DeepRifter though.
Well, no, sorry. You'll have to ask him later. Big thank you to DeepRifter,
we'll get everyone on the stage after this is all.
After this, we'll have questions.
We'll have a big conversation about this, very open.
You're first.
People and just have questions.
I think that Mario just crashed people.
Yeah, I just crashed.
All right. So A.J. Campbell, are you here?
I am here.
All right, take the stage, man. It's all you.
Texas green tea.
Everybody knows AJ Campbell from Rocket Sale?
Clap, clap,
Hey,
clap,
hey,
clap,
hey.
clap, clap.
Alright.
Nice. How's it going, guys? All right.
Pretty good, man. All right, we'll give you an extra. Let's see here.
What were you doing with one hand?
We'll give you an extra 4 minutes.
Right on. No worries. No worries.
Starting a little late, so.
It's all good. So, I'm not sure how many of you guys are familiar with me, but I'll give you a little background. I'll spend a few minutes on Rocket Sale. I'll spend a few minutes talking about audio because 3D audio is kind of how I got started in VR, and then I guess I'll answer any questions you guys might have. So I built a team. It's me and 3 other guys back in October because I started to get really obsessed with what was going on here in the 3D web. And we started in VR chat. Now we're building stuff in Janus VR, and we're just in love with everything that's happening right here in this room. And so right now we're kind of focused on avatars. And if you go to the Rocket Sale website in Janus right now, you can get there by hitting the tab button and typing in Rocket Sale. There's free avatars that you guys can equip, including the one I'm wearing in multiple colors you guys can pick from. And then also there's a sign-up form there where you can request a custom avatar. Now there's a bit of a line forming for the custom avatars, and I only have 4 people on my team, including me. So we'll try and get to as many of them as possible. But if you guys want a custom avatar, hit us up. We're trying to do as many of those as possible right now. But so we formed Rocket Sale because we want to figure out what the challenges are in helping the web become 3D, and that's what we're all about. So that's when we started, it wasn't necessarily avatars. Right now it's avatars. A few months from now it might be something else, but we have a lot of ideas, a lot of stuff we're working on behind closed doors. That it's going to be some cool stuff coming up. And so right now it's avatars. We're probably going to be building architecture in the future. Any content you guys might need, stay in touch with us. We're happy to at least bounce ideas around. But so I'm going to jump into audio a little bit because audio has been a hot topic on everybody's mind today. And I am kind of obsessed with audio too because I got my degree in music composition. I kind of double majored in programming and music composition. And when I first got into VR, I felt like that was the area where I could be most useful. And so I went and built a 3D audio plugin. And there's more of that going on now, but I jumped in a little over a year ago when there was really hardly anybody talking about audio. And so it's really important, I think. A lot of people are talking about high performance graphics with regard to VR, because we got to keep the frame rates high in order to not get people sick when they're in the experience. And not as many people, I think, realize that is equally true of audio. And a lot of the challenges that we're seeing here today are due to the fact that Mumble Chat is actually running some 3D audio algorithms every time we try and talk to each other. And I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with 3D audio, but shout out or text something if you guys are familiar with the term HRTF. Anybody? Yeah. Okay, a few people. Got some developers in here. So HRTFs are basically, they're like the stuff that's going on under the hood when we're talking to each other that allows us to sound like we're in a certain position. So it's the easiest way I can describe it is it's like stereo surround sound, except it works in headphones. And it's really cool because you don't need a surround sound system in order to get really high quality audio that sounds like it's coming from a specific direction, like a really specific direction. This stuff is accurate within a couple of degrees. It's even more accurate than your surround sound system. The trouble is that it really likes to chew on your processor. So you have a lot of it going on at once, and it will destroy your CPU. And so when I jumped into VR, my main goal was to try and figure out how to do some 3D audio that was really, really high efficiency. And I figured out how to do that with a plugin called VRSFX, which is unfortunately only available on the Unity Asset Store right now. So it doesn't really help us in Janus, but I am going to be looking to port it onto as many different platforms as possible. So wanted you guys to know about that. And if you have any questions about audio, I'm a complete open book. You can email me at aj@vrsfx or aj@rocketsail.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I'm also I'm in Los Angeles, so I'm kind of the guy that a lot of the 360 video people are coming to around here to figure out how to get some good audio captured along with their video. So I've done about half a dozen 360 video shoots using a few different methods. So there's omnibinaural, there's HRTFs, there's ambisonics. It's all, you know, there's a bunch of jargon that floats around. If you guys want to know more about that stuff, hit me up. But basically, like, there's no one good technique that is the end-all be-all answer for every recording scenario. And anybody who's interested in 360 video or 3D audio for video games, I think it's just important to know that you know, this one plugin you use for one situation might not be the best for every other situation. So it's important to understand the benefits and consequences. And like I said, this stuff is complicated, so feel free and shoot me an email if you have any questions about it. So you know, I can talk more about 360 video. I could talk about audio for video games. I can talk more about Rocket Sail if you guys want. But any questions so far?
Yeah, I do have one question.
Yeah, what do you mean by 360 videos? You want to immerse us even more? How so?
Have you not seen the videos in Janus yet? The 360?
Sorry, who's asking the question?
That was Ardent.
Uh-huh. And can you repeat it one more time? I didn't quite catch it.
Oh, he was asking about what do you plan on doing with the, like, how do you plan on immersing or further the immersion in with 360 videos?
So for me, it's all about 3D rendering every single sound that's supposed to be sourced in the scene. So when you're doing cinema, there's a difference between score and source audio. So anything that exists in the environment, which is in VR, there's a lot more requirements for that, because in order to feel immersed audio-wise, you want to render as much of your audio as possible in 3D if it's a sound that exists in the environment that they're standing in. And that's pretty tough to do, because, like, we have 3 people talking at once and it starts to eat our processors. What if you have a scene in a movie where you're trying to capture the rustling in the trees and the feet and shuffling on the ground and somebody talking in the background? And, you know, I could go on and on. Like, I can think of situations where there are dozens of sound effects in the environment that together just kind of create an ambience. But as humans, we have this crazy good ability to just turn our head very slightly and pick out any of the sounds in that ambience and have a really clear, distinct picture of what that sound is and where it's coming from. So our anatomy has this amazing ability to determine the directionality of the sound. And so the 3D rendering that we do, we call it spatializing 3D audio. It allows you to listen in headphones and be able to tell whether the sound's behind you, up above your head, over to the right, but also above or below, any direction you want in a sphere around your head. You can replicate that by processing the signal in a certain way. And there's a large number of ways that you can do that, and based on the situation of the scene that you're trying to record, you might want to use one type of equipment. You might want to use a different type of plugin on top of that. There's a lot of different scenarios. Does that answer the question?
Is 3D audio different from surround sound? Like if you're mixing in a DAW?
Absolutely. So it's something that I think is really tough for the guys I have worked with here in LA who don't have a lot of experience with 3D audio yet, but they have like buku experience in cinema and video games, and they really know their stuff around their DAW. But when you're talking about doing the final mix in 5.1 or 7.1 or trying to get to Atmos or whatever it is.
Yeah, I have Atmos.
It's really important to understand for VR that all of that kind of goes out the window. When you deploy the final mix for a VR platform, the absolute ideal scenario is always stereo left, right, and that's it. And that's because when you spatialize your audio, the output of every single plugin that does that right is going to be stereo left, right. And then if you try and upmix that, it's just going to degrade the quality of it.
Got it.
All right, I think
I have a question. Oh, sorry. Can I go? Yeah, all right. So very interesting talk. I actually want to know kind of where your particular focus is in the space of 3D audio, because you can kind of divide it into two camps, and I think you covered both. One is like an actual 360 video performance that takes place, where all of that sort of spatialization, if you will, how the waves bounce off all the walls and the environment that you're capturing, already gets done for you for free. So the challenge becomes acquisition. Conversely, in a virtual environment like we have, you might actually come up with like some low dimensional model to approximate things like reverberation, like sounds bouncing off walls and dampening and all these things. So that's kind of like a complementary or like the other half of the problem. So where do you fall in there, like one or the other or all of the above?
Well, so it's an excellent question, and it's kind of the hot topic among audio engineers that specialize in 3D stuff. And so the distinction I like to make is the difference between direction, distance, and we call it timbre in music. I've never heard anybody in 3D audio call it that, but that's kind of what I call it. So when I'm talking about timbre, I'm talking about the characteristics of the signal that come from the fact that there are certain materials in the room, right? So if you have carpet on the floor, the reverberations are going to be affected by that. If there's a couch in the middle of the room, the audio is going to be affected by that. But so the important thing I think for us right now today is to fight the battles that we can win. And so when you're talking about creating audio that sounds realistic, for me, it's about 80% directionality and 20% everything else. And so the stuff that HRTFs and binaural mics do to allow you to determine, oh, the sound is coming from exactly that direction. That characteristic is much more important to me than the reverb acoustics of the room. And so the other important aspect of that is that if you look at the performance cost of calculating the directionality versus the reverb acoustics, it's night and day, a huge difference. There's it's kind of the opposite. You get 80% of the value from 20% of the cost. So determining the direction a sound is coming from, it's way less expensive on the processor than figuring out if there's carpet on the floor. And then if you're not an audio engineer, then it's as a layman, it's really easy to tell when the sound is rendered such that you can hear the direction. It's much more subtle to be able to tell what kind of materials are on the floor and on the walls, right? So the reverb characteristics for me Exactly. Well, so the other thing about this is there's so much generic research that's been done in the field of reverb. So the early reflections and late reflections, we have all kinds of software that approximates that stuff so well that we can kind of rely on that and not have to bother chewing on the processor in order to figure out the exact shape of the room or the exact materials that are on the floor. And at the end of the day, you get a sound that's it's absolutely not 100% exactly what that room would sound like, but it's close enough to 100%. While keeping the processor requirements where they need to be, and that's more important because like if you make it sound 100% perfect in the room, but you drop the frame rate to 15, that's a non-starter. It's not going to work in VR. So it's much more important, I think, to watch that the frame rate the whole time and determine what you can get away with in audio. I mean, 20 years from now, we're going to be doing amazing things with early and late reflections and getting a lot closer to 100% perfect representation of sound as far as reflections are concerned. But we're a long way from that because today's processor capability is just not going to be able to handle that.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I'd like to. Sorry, I got to interrupt you there,
a
AJ.
GPU for sound, like they have a
No
GPU
worries.
for graphics.
So I think the
Hang
idea
on.
here is that we get the other
Hang
two
on.
guests,
I'll-
James.
If you'd just like to come up on stage, Firefox. Would everybody like to thank AJ for his talk? It was very informative.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Very good.
Thank you.
Hit me up if you have any questions.
We've made 3 more channels in the Mumble channel. If you see, they're broken up. One says AJ, Rocket Sail, DeepRifter, and James McCraes. What we're going to do now is we're going to break into those 3 channels, those 3 Mumble channels, so people can talk further with the 3 guest speakers.
Also, is there a
but
preferred room for each
before-
of these guys?
Yeah, in the Mumble channel, there's 3 special rooms already made up. But
No, I
before
also meant
everybody
like
splits
in
off,
the VR
You
space.
could also just have
No.
like all 3 of them stand up, and then people could raise their hands and like.
I think that's probably better, Aussie, to have everyone just
Which-
come on stage.
Yep, whichever way you want to work it out. But yeah, we'll break up now so you can all individually speak to the 3 speakers. Before you move off, we'd like to say thank you very much for coming today. We've appreciated the turnout. It's we spent a lot of work on making this look as good as it did, and the turnout has really heartened us. This is amazing. So thank you all very much.
Thank
Have
you.
anything
Thank you, guys.
Great job.
Woo.
Yeah.
DeepRifter
No worries.
moved to DeepRifter Road, Tober.
All right.
DeepRifter entered channel.
So we're going to
So I-
fragment the crowd in this way?
Wait,
With
DeepRifter, are you going to your own channel?
I think we should just
Yeah.
everyone come on
Yeah.
stage.
Okay,
I don't know.
I'm going to your channel.
I'm ahead of
Split
my channel.
channels,
Yeah, I'll be
move
right back
closer.
too.
All right, yeah.
Proximity.
You guys, okay. We'll do it that way then.
DeepRifter
Yep,
moved
whoever wants to talk to
DeepRifter
whoever
Road,
wants to
Tober.
talk.
Alarm
All right.
underscore
Hey, James,
Eric
good talk.
moved to James
I'm about to
CM3,
head.
James
Thanks.
VR
Okay, see you
creator.
then.
Ardent moved to DeepRifter Road, Tober. Alt moved to Jameson CM Cree Janus VR creator. US Deer 123 moved to Jameson CM Cree Janus VR creator. Jameson Cree underscore win moved to Jameson CM Cree Janus VR creator. Video game bucket moved to Jameson CM Cree Janus VR